All righty. Hello, everyone. What we're going to do is focus on LinkedIn and some of the features to really optimize your profile and bring out a lot of the keywords that are within your resume and even the job titles that you want into your LinkedIn. So, like I said, we're going to kind of pull what we have already in the resume and kind of transfer into here and go from there. So if you don't already, make sure that you have a LinkedIn account. It is especially important. It's basically like a resume, but a very dynamic version, right? You can go online, you can show different multimedia, you can actually search and connect with people. So the importance of LinkedIn is huge if you haven't heard of it. So make sure to sign up. And throughout our time together, what we're going to do is kind of build and grow that network and use that as a primary tool for job searching and job hunting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. And what we're going to do is go through a couple of examples of LinkedIn profiles and see some best practices for developing your profile page. So we're going to go in here and you'll see my profile pulled up. Okay. And I have a couple of ones posted here as well, or loaded up here as well, but you'll see a couple different things, right? So you'll see one, a profile picture, two, a cover letter, or I'm sorry, a cover photo, and then three, your header information. So in your professional photo, you do want to make sure that it's professional, right? You're smiling. It's not a cluttered background. You're not cropped, anything like that. And what you can actually do is put your photo through something called Photo Feeler. So this is photofeeler.com. And basically what this does is it allows you to have other people, totally anonymous, but have other people kind of grade your profile picture and see how it works, right? So you would just go to photofeeler.com, you would create an account. What you need to do in order for this to work, unless you want to pay for it, I wouldn't recommend paying, but you just have to vote on other people's accounts. In this sense, you would just vote for business people and you can determine whether you feel as if they're competent, likable, and influential. So for example, I could say that this person, seems pretty competent, seems pretty likable, and is maybe somewhat influential, right? And then you can also say, great outfit, and you can even include some suggestions and always submit your vote, okay? So this is what people are going to do to your profile picture, okay? So again, you go to Photo Feeler, you have to do some votes. I think it's like 40 or so. It takes no more than 10 minutes. And then once you do and you have those credits, you go to My Tests, you create a new test, and you just upload a photo. Say that it's for business as opposed to social or dating. You can use those for those profiles, but for the purposes of career coaching, we're going to focus on business. And then from there, include your professional title. So for me, I'm a business owner, or I could say a career coach, right? And then, like I said, it would just be the karma test that you would submit. I just don't have credits at the moment. And then just go through the steps to submit this. And then you'll see results populate, and it should take no longer, I think it's like no more than an hour. And you'll see here I have like a pretty statistically relevant one to see kind of where I'm at. And I'll also include a link to do's and don'ts of professional headshots. So if yours is scoring low, there are some ways in which you can improve it. So again, this is just a good way to get a base understanding of your profile and your professional photo to see if it looks okay. So that's the professional photo. In the cover photo, I would definitely recommend adding a picture here. And that could be anything from, something that you like, that you're passionate about, maybe where you live. It aligns to your line of work. So for example, for me, I used to have the Dallas skyscraper, the Dallas skyscrapers on here, kind of that landscape view of it. And because obviously I live in Dallas, right? But for some people, you can do something related to your field. So in this example with Justin, he is a quality leader. He's like a quality manager in engineering. And these are a lot of the different tests that he does. And then also for Kayla, she's part of influence marketing. So she has a background photo related to there. I would not I would not do one that has a lot of watermarks. So just kind of keep that in mind. Try to find something on Google, or if you make it yourself, that fits within these dimensions and sizes. Okay. The next section here is obviously your name, so that should be okay. What I'll also point out, I know I did this in the last video, but for your personal profile URL, make sure if there are a bunch of numbers and letters afterwards that you press edit public profile and URL. And from there, you can edit what it looks like. Mine used to have a bunch of letters and numbers, but now it just has first name, last name. And, some people, if they have like a very common name, like Justin is pretty common, he did Justin Ryan Smith. So just something to keep in mind and take note of if you haven't done so already. So again, this is like the first third of the fold, if you will. And after your name, there's kind of this headline or tagline. And for me, it's a little bit different because I'm a business owner, right? But basically, I'm saying the different job titles that I have and then my purpose. But for you, if you're looking more so for a specific job, you could say open to work in technical writing, open to work as a full-time tutor, looking for full-time opportunities in coding and web development, whatever it may be, so that that's kind of there. Again, Justin has, some of what he does. He's a quality leader, quality manager, and these are some additional skills that he has, And then Kayla just says directly, she's an influence marketing account executive. So if you're looking to transition careers, like if you were you were an elementary school teacher, for example, but you want to go into instructional design, looking for full-time opportunities in instructional design. That's totally okay to say, even if your opportunity wasn't that. In the profile section as well, I'll say for your picture, you can actually add frames and you can do the open to work frame. I don't think there's anything wrong with that to show that you are open to work. So absolutely no problem with that. If you're a recruiter, for example, there's always the hiring option, or if your company is hiring, they may direct you to put that on there as well. So just kind of a description there. And then what you can do is you can press the edit button, and there are a ton of different fields here that you can go through. Again, we just covered the headline one. They provide like a pre-populated one, like a default one, but you can always change it. And then your current position, that's whatever position you have. And then, what industry you're in, your education. For me, I did, where I got my bachelor's from, as opposed to like my high school or anything. So, and allow it to show in your intro. That's super helpful, especially within your alumni network. alma mater network is a great way to get plugged in and to build connections and find jobs. And then also, when you're doing this, you make sure you put the country and region, the postal code, and the city. So with the city, what I would recommend is, for example, I live in Carrollton, Texas. Carrollton is really, really small, but more people know of Dallas or Dallas-Fort Worth. So just make sure that you're picking something a little bit more broad as opposed to a really tiny town that nobody knows. So try to find the biggest city or the biggest metroplex that people would be familiar with. And then you have contact info here. So you have the profile URL, the email. If you want to put in a phone number, you can. I do not suggest putting address, because if you put address, people can actually look up your house on like Zillow and they'll make a bias based on what your house or apartment looks like. So that's why we don't have resumes on, or excuse me, we don't have addresses on resumes either. Again, you can put your birthday if you want. That's totally up to you. And then the website here, for me, I'm a business owner, so I put my website here. But another ones or other options that you can do is like a personal website, a company, of course. If you do a blog or an RSS feed, maybe a portfolio. So for example, if you're a graphic designer or you've done coding or you've done communications projects, that you can also put that in there. So you'll see my portfolio is in here also. And then if you want to add any other services, you can, feed in certain ones like Twitter. You might be able to do Facebook as well. I'm not quite sure. But this one's linked to my Twitter account. So that's the first third of it. What you also have the option to do is open to work and providing services. So open to work is great, especially if you're looking for a job, right? And what you can do in here is you can submit up to 5 job titles. So for example, if you're a teacher and you want to go into instructional design, you could put instructional design, training and development, learning, tutoring, online teaching. You can actually, when you add a title, let's see if they'll pre-populate different ones. So you have to choose from their list, right? And then of course you can choose whether you want to do on-site, hybrid, or remote, or a combination of those. Job locations on-site, again, I just match it to the city that I put. However, if you're interested into moving to a different city, you can always put that also. And then start date, whether you're flexible or you're immediate or actively applying, you'll most likely press immediate. And then from here, there are different job types. So full-time, part-time, internship, temporary, contract. You'll probably not select contract. I'll go over that in just a second here. But if anything, you'll probably put full, part, and internship. And then you can select who chooses to see that you're open. So you could say all LinkedIn members or just recruiters only. That's really up to you. So that's an option, right? You want to make sure that you're selecting your open to work. Another option as well is if you're providing services. Now, this could be if, for example, you have a side hustle. If you, sell art, or you work as a contractor, like as a freelancer, and you're open to other opportunities, this is where you can put this here. I have it for me because I work as a contractor and a freelancer. That's not going to be for everyone. But if this is for you, what you can do is edit this button as well. And you can, I think it's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes. So you can provide 10 services in here. You can have an about section. I, keep this short, sweet, to the point. They can read your LinkedIn if they're interested. Obviously, your work location. Client requests, I usually select yes. All LinkedIn members can view this, things like that. So it's a really good way to kind of build your services. And then, of course, when you go into services, and this might change within LinkedIn, I know they're playing around with a few different features. So I don't know what this is going to look like in the future, but what you can do is you can even upload work samples. You can add media formats to show your work and experience. So you can add images, videos, links, whatever it may be. And then also, you can invite people to review your work. So for example, usually I ask people after I'm done coaching them if they can review my services to them so that they can rate it here. And then you can actually post the review so that other LinkedIn members can see. So this is a really good feature if, again, you're doing more contracting, freelancing kind of work. So definitely a lot in here. I'll also cover, because I didn't, the about section as well. You can add some things in here and you can always edit the page. So that should be good. Again, that's not going to be for everyone, but I did want to call that out. So let me go back to my profile here. Okay. So that's what we have for the first third, so the first section of this. And now what we're going to do is scroll down. So you may have the option to turn on creator mode. That's really going to depend on your experiences and what you're doing. If you're a person who's like creating a lot of content, posting, blogging on LinkedIn, this is going to be for you to turn it on. This is why I have it on. But for a typical job seeker, you're probably not going to need this. And I think you can only turn creator mode on if you have a certain amount of contacts. So that might not be an option if you're just starting out. But again, just something to think about. And you can look through some of these items as well. All right. So the next section here is featured. So basically, this featured section is kind of like your highlight reel, if you will. And I highly, highly, highly recommend people to add to this, because if a reader only gets to this part, they can see like, wow, this person has done a lot, right? And then, then they'll be interested in reading more. Again, it's very much like a resume where you're kind of showing, this feature section is kind of like showing your core competencies of like, hey, this is like some stellar work. So for example, before I jumped into my job as a full-time corporate America business lady, what I did was I added, my resume in here. I added my portfolio link again. I added some projects that I did for school. Now that I work as a business owner, I do more of my services or reviews. So that might be helpful, again, if you're a contractor or a freelancer. I was featured on a couple of podcasts, so I did that. Also, some blog posts that I wrote, again, just for people to get like a look and feel of who I am. So highly recommend to add to this. And of course, you can add a post, newsletter, article, link, media, and then you can even edit the order of this as well. And I think it's this, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you can like update the order of how this looks, or you can even add. I don't know the maximum amount for featured, but I wouldn't add too many. Just like maybe, I think like honestly 5 or 6 should be enough. Maybe 3 to 6. That's how many I would add in this section. activity, this is just going to show your activity. So just make sure that you're active, you know, you're posting things, you're replying to people, you're commenting, things like that, just to show that you're doing more than just applying for a job. This about section is basically going to be a copy and paste of your profile section. So if I look, let me actually provide you, let me actually provide an example, because sometimes I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay, let me show Kayla's really quick. So again, this profile section that you see here, I would just recommend copying and pasting it into here. The shorter that you can make it, the better, because people don't want to read loads and loads and loads and loads on an about page. So I think the shorter that you can make it, the better. Again, mine is a little bit lengthier, but again, it kind of fits. If you look at this on a mobile device, or if you look on here, it fits within a fold. Now, if I have to keep like scrolling, there's going to be some problems. So again, I would just copy and paste your profile section. In here, in your experience, you're going to want to make sure, and I guess in general, in the experience section, is that the experience section is kind of a mirror of your resume. So a lot that's in your resume is going to be within your LinkedIn. That's why we focus so much time and energy on the resume, because everything afterwards is going to be pretty simple. So for example, on here, when you're submitting, or excuse me, when you're adding an experience, you just add a position. You can also add a career break in here too, if you want. That kind of goes into, you know, what type, you know, there's all different types, you know, the location, if you're currently on it, you know, maybe a description and like a profile headline as well. I don't think this is needed as much, so I would just leave it. And of course, any media, which I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But for your position, again, same kind of thing. You know, you're adding your title, and it's going to be an exact replica of what's in here, right? So the job title is an account executive. She put influencer marketing account executive, which is fine, just because influencer marketing did not fit on here, and she already mentioned influencer marketing a ton. And let's see. Okay. And then, you know, the employment type, the company name. Try to find a company name, if you can, that actually is already built out. And that way people can click on it and read more about the company. And plus, I think it just adds a lot of pizzazz to your resume, or excuse me, to your LinkedIn as well. You know, start and end dates, what the industry is, a description. And this description, what you're going to do is you're going to just copy and paste the bullet points from the resume. So you'll see here, all of these copied and pasted into here. And you'll see here, for example, that Kayla's, this is technically like what her company is, but because Semaphore Brand Solution, she couldn't find it on here. That's why she said Semaphore family of companies. And then right above, she said at Semaphore Brand Solutions. So that's like an example of kind of what I was talking about earlier. So again, the description, you're just going to type it as is. Skills, recommend adding these. And this is kind of what we did in the brain dumping exercise. And as you were building the bullet points, really understanding what skills you acquired in this particular role. The more that they match with the job description that you're wanting or intending, the better. I think the most important thing on here is media, because I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if you can include media, whether it's a link or maybe a picture, a PNG, I don't know if they do videos, but you may be able to like do a YouTube link or video. That kind of adds that dynamic point to your resume. That's why a LinkedIn profile is more dynamic than a resume, because you can put a ton of multimedia in here. So for example, if you look at Justin did a really good job of this again, he's like a quality engineer. But in here, what he did is that he actually like included images. And when you include like an image, for example, you would say what the title of it is, and then you can provide a description, right? So this is like a great sample of work that he's done. Just make sure though, when you do add these, that you're not violating any company policies, because like, for example, when I worked as a human resources consultant, I couldn't upload specific files unless the client name was scrubbed. So just be sensitive of client information and whatnot, and get permission from your company or from that client to make sure that you can upload some of these documents. So that's just the caveat or disclaimer to some of this. And yeah, that's basically in terms of the experience, everything will kind of order itself, auto order based on the dates. So it actually does go in a chronological order, but that's okay if your resume is not necessarily in chronological order. And if you have a lot of experiences, you would just like, for example, let's see, I have it in here. An executive in C-suite. See how it's like he has prior work experience? You basically, when you create your experience, you would just say, you could just say prior work. And then, it's full-time. And this could just be various locations, like various companies. Nope, that's not what I want to show. And then you can say, for example, in here is like 1993. So maybe it was January of 1993, whatever it would be, to the end date of 2005. So let's say August of 2005. Where is that? Okay. And then you can just copy and paste, for example, this into here. So you'll see that. Also adding those skills would be good, media and whatnot. And when you put that in here, let's see, you should be able to, it might just be underneath some of this stuff, just because I have a little bit. Okay, see, so you'll see that prior work. So I'm going to delete this since this isn't my prior work. And you'll see here, what I did was I included, a lot of my internships, even when I was like a soccer coach, just like a ton of different things. If something was at a university, I just put the university and put the titles underneath there. So you'll see kind of all the different work. For me, I kept it very, short, sweet, to the point for some of these other things, just because, again, I'm a business owner. My experience is a little different than what you all are doing and going through. Education, definitely add, your bachelor's degrees, master's, high school, anything like that. I usually add activities and organizations that I was a part of. I also added like my minor and GPA. The whole thing with GPA is a couple different things. So if it's above, I think it's above a 3 or a 3.5, then you can include your overall GPA. If it's from like many, many years ago, like maybe you're in the middle of your career and it was like 15 years ago, there's no need to include your overall GPA. I think including activities in societies or activities in organizations is a good idea, just because if you are connecting with people from like a business fraternity or maybe like a SHRM chapter, that would be good to include. And then, of course, there's licenses and certifications. So for me, I had a few different ones. I'll show Justin's because I think he did a great job of this. You can actually add like links to the credential in itself also, so that, you know, people can learn more about the different like the certification that you took. What else in here? Of course, you can add volunteering. So for me, I just kept it short, sweet, to the point. It doesn't need to be anything extremely long, but I think volunteering is good to add in here. Of course, skills. This is going to populate as you write the skills in your experience section. So just keep that in mind. Recommendations, if you can give and receive recommendations from people, that is helpful as well, just so that people know, like, oh my gosh, like this person, you know, it's like a review, right? It's kind of like what we talked about with the reviews. And then what I also wanted to add in here are projects. This is going to be especially relevant for people who just completed college or they've recently completed college. But for example, this is, I used to have this in my experience section, but once I started acquiring so many experiences, I moved them down to the projects. So if you have any questions on like which stuff should go where, just let me know. But in the project section, this is a really cool way to just include some people who you collaborated with. You can actually show like links to the projects in themselves. So, you know, for example, this is like a project that I did, right? What's another one? Oh, like my honors capstone. So that was like my senior capstone. And I used it, or I created my links on like adobe.com, assets.adobe.com. Just use whatever works best for you. It might be even like a Google link. You could probably do that. But yeah, there's just so much in here again that you can add. So if, for example, you have a ton of experiences, but you still want to include these projects, because for me, I still bring up some of these projects and whatnot, you can. And of course, you can always add what the project name is, you know, the start and end dates. If you have creators or contributors, if it's associated with any sort of experience, you can add that as well. The project URL, so that's a great way to showcase the project. This is kind of like your media file. And then a description. The description can be, again, pulled from your resume if you wanted to include bullet points, or if you just wanted to create a one-liner, I think that's okay too. And I say that because it's closer to the bottom of the LinkedIn profile. So for people to scroll all the way down here, it's kind of a lot, and they're very, very invested, which is a good thing. But if it's something where you want people to see more, then I would recommend to just put it in your experience section. So again, projects, definitely good to have, but I would put your lower priority things that you want others to see. And then, of course, you can add honors and awards, organizations. Like the more that you can add in here, the better. Again, not that these have to be super prescriptive or a ton of bullets, but it's just good. The more that you can fill in these different sections, the better. And then you can, you know, follow different people. So for me, I follow Gary Vaynerchuk. I think he's awesome. He is great. And you can see like your connections, or maybe even those out in the public can see kind of who you follow and all that kind of stuff. And of course, your causes as well. So that's basically the LinkedIn profile. Like I said, what's going to be really important is building out this header section, kind of like Kayla has here. That about section is going to be a copy paste of your profile, copy and paste of your work experiences into here, making sure that it aligns with your resume, and also to what Justin has is having media within his experiences, and then what I have, which is these featured, adding media to your featured section. And then, yeah, education, any sort of skills, and of course, adding all of the different other components like projects, organizations, recommendations. Like I said, the more you can build this out, the better. But really, this header, the about, the featured, and the experience and the education are going to be your main ones. So take a stab at doing that. Of course, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to guide you and help you through it. But those are basically the LinkedIn features of how to really build your profile. And we'll take some time in future sessions and whatnot to learn how to actually start using LinkedIn. I'm going to stop presenting my screen here. But actually how to start using LinkedIn to start searching for jobs, to start networking with people, to start growing your network, researching companies, all that kind of stuff. So more to come with LinkedIn, but that's how to set up your profile. Awesome. Thank you so much and have a good one.